Welcome to the Select Star Podcast, your resource for innovative technology, developer topics, and more. Here's your host, Margot McCabe from the HarperDB team.
All right, hello everyone. Welcome to the Select Star Podcast. Thanks for tuning in. I'm excited about today's topic. It's something that I've been reading about and learning about a lot over the past year, and I'm sure a lot of listeners have been as well. So today we have Patrick Loeber. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, Patrick.
Yeah, that's correct.
Awesome. So Patrick is a software engineer and YouTuber who is teaching the community Python and machine learning. You might know him from social media or from YouTube. I think he recently hit 100,000 subscribers on YouTube. So congrats, Patrick. And thanks for joining us today.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I'm super excited to be here. Yeah, I'm Patrick. I'm from Germany. So I was working as a software engineer the last couple of years. I actually just 2 weeks ago switched jobs. So I'm now a developer advocate.
Okay.
And yeah, I'm running my YouTube channel on the side with the name Python Engineer. Yeah, and as the name suggests, it's focused on Python and machine learning. And yeah, it's going pretty well so far.
It looks like it from what I can see.
Yeah.
And are you based in Berlin? Is that what
I'm in Berlin, yes.
Okay. Very cool. I visited there once many years ago, but I thought it was such an awesome city. I really want to go back.
Yeah, you should.
Very cool. And so you mentioned that you recently transitioned. You're a developer advocate now. So, what were you doing when you were the software engineering side? What company are you with focusing on now?
Yeah, good question. So maybe I tell a little bit about my background from university.
Awesome.
First, if that's all right. Because I studied, it was called medical engineering. And this was like a mixture between mechanical engineering, electrical engineering, and computer science. And all with a focus on medical data. So then I specialized on this medical field and on the computer vision field. So I did my master's in the medical image processing. And then I started working as a software engineer. So I think I got my degree in 2017. Yeah. And then I worked for 2 different companies here in Germany, all in the medical sector. And this was more in the image processing field. So we did applications for radiologists. And now I switched jobs, and I'm working now it's Assembly AI. That's a startup in the NLP space, actually. So they do a speech to text API. And yeah, I just got involved with their technology and played around with this. And I even did a video about this on my own channel. And then I liked it so much and they approached me, and that's why I ended up here. And now I'm actually moving away a little bit from coding, from software engineering. So I'm now focusing more on content creation. So I'm also trying to create video content or even blog posts, and just engage with the community and make them excited about our product, but also about general machine learning and deep learning stuff. So yeah,
that's great. Yeah, it seems like a natural transition for you since you were already creating so much content previously. So even though you're moving a little bit away from coding, it's probably feels right, and you already know what you're doing in that space. So
yeah, I think so too. It definitely makes sense because I enjoy this content creation so much. I really love teaching and also creating videos. So it really made sense. And yeah, I got a great offer that I couldn't turn down.
Yeah, that's cool. It just goes to show that putting content out there can create opportunities, because I'm sure when you first put that video out, you weren't expecting to get a job offer from it. So it's always good to just create content, put it out in the universe and see what happens.
Yeah, I think that's the best thing you can do if you want to start in this field as a be a software engineer or in a different kind of field, then yeah, best thing you can do is just to create content and show what you can do and share it with the internet.
Yep. Exactly. Very cool. Well, so it sounds like you're in a great space now. And I'm sure you'll still keep up with your current YouTube channel and with some of the machine learning content and stuff like that you're kind of an expert on. So I'd love to kind of jump into just why you're excited about machine learning and related to that, why is Python the framework of choice? I know, you always see that hand in hand, but just going back to the basics of why is that? Why is Python, usually the framework of choice when it comes to machine learning? Like, how do those two intersect?
Yeah, so as I said, I specialized in this medical image processing, and I had a lot of lectures about machine learning and deep learning at university.
Okay.
But then I started working as a normal software engineer, so I never considered myself as a machine learning engineer. I'm more like a regular software engineer, but I still enjoyed this back at university. So I kind of missed the machine learning part in my day job. And yeah, the two languages I always had to use at work were C++ and Python.
Okay.
So these are the two programming languages I know best. And then in 2019, I started my YouTube channel, and I chose Python only because I thought Python is a little bit easier to teach than C++. And I wasn't sure in the beginning. And I wasn't sure in the beginning if I could do this. So yeah, that's why I chose Python. And yeah, I also focused on this machine learning stuff because I missed this in my job, but I had the theoretical background from university. So that's why I ended up with Python and machine learning. And I think, yeah, for machine learning, Python is just the best choice.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I like the transparency with originally leaning towards Python just because it was easier to learn and teach. It's funny because even our founding team at HarperDB, we get asked a lot why they built the product in Node.js because that's pretty unique for a database. And a couple times they've said, well, it was what our team knew and it was just the easiest. And they didn't want to have to learn something new. They felt the most comfortable with that language and it just seemed like the easiest route. So there are some deeper technical explanations, but sometimes if it's just what you're most comfortable with, then that's fine.
Yeah, that's true.
Very cool. And so when it comes down to machine learning, is there a difference, or how do the worlds intersect of like AI, machine learning, deep learning? You see these buzzwords thrown around a lot. So what would you say, like, is the difference between those? How do they intersect? If you work in one area, are you kind of working in all those areas? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think AI is like the big buzzword for everything.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think you can use for AI for everything, and machine learning is like a sub area of AI. So I think by definition, machine learning is when the computer tries to learn something on its own rather than you give explicit instructions. And so usually you do this by showing training data to the computer, and then the computer tries to learn with this data. So this is what machine learning is. And then deep learning is another sub area of machine learning that involves neural networks. That's another buzzword, maybe.
Definitely.
That's flying around. So yeah, neural networks. These are actually inspired from human brains, which is really interesting. Where you connect these neurons, and then deep learning can figure out more complex stuff. So yeah, I think that's the three areas.
Yeah. So kind of what you're saying is AI is like the overarching bucket, and then machine learning, is the next step. Deep learning would be maybe a step after you're learning machine learning. I'm saying the word learning a lot,
Exactly.
but it sounds like it kind of goes in that order, and that makes sense based on how you explained it. And so, um, when it comes to if someone's just starting out their journey, or even if they've been in this world for a little while, what would you say are some of the main tips that you have for people that are trying to learn Python and trying to get into machine learning? Or like
Hmm.
some of the biggest mistakes you see? I see people post a lot about like the top 10 mistakes in learning Python or things like that. Like if you could go back to your younger self, what would be the advice you'd want to give?
Yeah, good question. Definitely don't rush yourself. It's a long process. Even for me, when I started, so I had the benefit of learning it at university. But when I first started learning about programming, I was really bad at it actually. So it took I don't know, it took like 1 year, and then it finally somehow made click in my head. Um, so, and a lot of beginners make the mistake that they watch a tutorial and then they get confused all the time, and then they just lose interest and think they cannot do it. So yeah, definitely take it slow in the beginning, but it's on the other side, it's also important to practice regularly. So there are a lot of free courses available right now. So it's fine to go with a free course, even on YouTube. There are amazing free courses to learn Python and machine learning. So you could definitely just pick one and go with this. But then there's also, yeah, it's important to just keep practicing and not just follow the tutorial, but also try to apply it for your own project, make your own projects with it. Yeah, especially when you want to go in the machine learning field, you just have to play around with data a lot and have to get a feel for how this affects your model and your algorithm. So you should definitely do a lot of hands-on projects as well.
Yeah, that's helpful. And you just reminded me of another question that I had that I've seen some people kind of debate about before is, when it comes to machine learning, there are different algorithms, and when it comes to data analysis and things like that. And I've seen, a lot of people like to do the common debate of, do you have to have a tech, a degree in coding to get a job in that space? And so I've seen kind of the similar conversation around this with, do you have to have like a mathematical background? I know coding can intersect with math a lot, but do you think that you have to have like a pretty good understanding of math and of those algorithms that you're using, or is there enough technology these days that you can kind of just plug it in and you don't really have to know the exact specifics of that?
Yeah, that also depends on the actual position you have. I think for example, the title machine learning engineer can actually vary a lot between different companies. So if you go more in a direction of a research scientist, then definitely you should have a good knowledge also about mathematics. But there are also positions where you find if you know how to use these frameworks, because there are a lot of amazing frameworks like PyTorch or TensorFlow. And for some roles, it's fine to just plug it in. But it's still important to understand how your data works and just know about general machine learning pipelines, but yeah, not necessarily the math stuff.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. It definitely does depend what position you're in. I think I've heard that, first of all, as you said, one title can mean 1,000 different things depending on what company you're at. But I've also heard, I'm just relating it to even like in the world of accounting, where some accountants have to know specifically and have all these algorithms and mathematics memorized and really understand it to the core. And other of my friends that are in accounting say that they just plug it into a software and they don't really need to know the nitty gritty. They just need the bigger picture understanding. So, maybe if people are starting their journey, getting into machine learning, or if they're already partway through their journey, these are important things to think about when looking at like job offers and what path you want to take. And I think
I still,
go
sorry.
ahead.
Go.
I was just
I
gonna say, I
still,
think in the tech world, it's okay if you go one path and then you change your mind and you need to go a different direction. It's people are pretty understanding about making those jumps and changing in careers. So no one panic.
yeah, absolutely. So I still like to when I teach stuff on my channel, I still like to start with the basics. So it's always good to have a good foundation. But also I don't say that it's necessary that you do a deep dive on the math stuff. So yeah, but you should still have a small foundation.
Yeah. Yeah. And speaking of your channel, how do you, now that you're in the developer advocacy space, I'm sure you're focusing a lot more on this, but how do you decide, what content to create next when you're looking at what you've put out there and what people are talking about right now? How do you decide what to do your next project on or your next video? I know so many people I speak to do content creation, at least as like a side project with what their main career is. And people struggle with like, well, what should I write about? Because there's so much out there. And how do you know what to focus on?
Yeah. Yeah, I think I have a never-ending list of ideas that are still on my to-do list.
That's a good problem.
Yeah, but when I started with my channel, I mainly did videos about topics that I wanted to learn. For example, I wanted to learn about PyTorch, so which I never used before. So I created this whole course, a beginner course about PyTorch, which is now I think one of the most popular videos on my channel. And so at the beginning I did mainly videos that I was interested in, and then more and more people started watching. And now I'm always trying to find a good balance between stuff I still like to learn, but also I get a lot of suggestions from the community. So I, of course, try to make them happy. And also sometimes I kind of try to please the YouTube algorithm. I think every YouTuber does this sometimes. So
Yeah.
yeah, when you try to do a catchy title and a catchy hyped topic. So yeah, I try to find a good balance between all these things. But yeah, there's still a lot you can do. In the beginning, I was a little bit afraid when I just picked Python. So I was afraid that I narrowed myself down so much. But after a while, I realized that even only in the Python field, and there's so much you can do, especially because I also have machine learning with Python.
Yeah.
So yeah, there are so much ideas that I still want to do.
Yeah, I think it's probably really helpful to have a specialization. I mean, you can't be a jack of all trades and be an expert in every single language. You can try, but if you really focus on one, then people will probably respect you and your content more because they know that that's really your expertise. So I think it makes sense.
Yeah,
And just sorry.
especially when the channel is still smaller, I think it's better to have your niche.
Right.
And yeah, maybe when you get bigger, you can also think about branching out or something.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's important to get those the first followers and people reading and learning from you. It's probably important to focus on that niche and then grow from there. Because if you're jumping all over too much, you might kind of lose focus.
Yeah.
Very cool. And so just in case people listening aren't familiar, would you share just a little bit about, what is PyTorch? How is it different from TensorFlow and kind of what you've learned about it since you've been working with it for quite a while now?
Yeah, so PyTorch and TensorFlow are both the most popular deep learning frameworks. So they are mainly used for deep learning to train neural networks. And Yeah, they PyTorch is developed by Facebook and TensorFlow by Google, so they are actually big competitors in this field. But yeah, there are a lot of questions. Which one is better? And yeah, I think both are amazing right now. Both are equally fine to pick. And yeah, but so it's okay to go with both. Yeah.
Okay. I like that you're staying neutral on the argument.
Yeah,
It's a safe bet.
definitely.
Very cool. And so yeah, so love to just dive a little bit more into when it comes to machine learning, like where do you see machine learning being used the most now in real world applications? Where do you see that going in a couple years from now or 10 years from now? I know a lot of times there's big predictions that happen in the tech space. And a lot of times, even if there already is the technology for it, for example, flying cars, when they said like 50 years ago that we would have them, 20 years ago, it's like, even if the technology does exist for it, a lot of times we maybe don't have the infrastructure or the legal documents in place that we need for it. So where do you see machine learning being used most now, and where do you see that potential years from now?
That's a good question. So one big area where I'm coming from is of course the medical area. So there are a lot of applications in the medical field that just make sense, that can help the doctors to make decisions. So this is one part. Then of course with driving, autonomic driving is also a very big area. And yeah, but also I think nowadays it's everywhere.
Yeah. It's true. I think people probably hear, if they're not familiar, maybe they hear the word machine learning and think like it's so futuristic and complicated, but there are small versions of machine learning being used in day to day everywhere. So
and also like the most popular apps right now, if you look at Instagram or TikTok or YouTube, they all are based on machine learning stuff, because in the background they have this recommendation engine that shows you the best videos, so that the viewer keeps watching. So this is also a very, very big field. Also in e-commerce, of course, if you look at Amazon or other e-commerce stores.
Yeah, that's true, because all those algorithms that social media is based off of is a version of machine learning. And that reminds me of that documentary that was popular not too long ago, I think it was called Social Dilemma, about kind of the negative side of this, how sometimes it's dangerous. The machine learning can be dangerous in a way where if people are constantly looking at things on social media and news feeds and constantly being fed the same information and not seeing the other side of the argument, that it can create kind of biased views. Do you have any thoughts on that? Of like, with any technology, there's pros and cons, but have you seen any kind of real world applications of where machine learning might have some negatives to it?
Yeah, I agree. I think I watched the same documentary on Netflix.
Yeah, it was kind of scary.
And I also recently watched a video on YouTube about the TikTok algorithm. Because the TikTok algorithm especially pulls you in this bubble where you then just get the content that the algorithm thinks you like, and it learns it super quickly. So it's actually really scary. So it looks at all the different metrics, like how long you stop for this video, and then what kind of music there is. So if it's, for example, if it's a dramatic music or exciting, and then it very quickly learns your personality and just shows you this stuff. For example, there were a lot of people that were kind of in a sad mood, and then they got all these sad videos, and it pulls you really into this bubble and doesn't let you out. So
yeah, that is scary. Yeah, I think maybe all social media does that to an extent. But I don't have TikTok yet, so I haven't experienced that quite yet. It's like the one social media that I'm trying to hold off on just because I don't want to have too many things to check and too many apps to distract me throughout the day. But yeah, I mean, I think even with like Instagram and Twitter, it's like that too, where if you like certain things, then it'll show you that person more often than others. And
Yeah.
in
And
some
it's
ways that's
scary how
great and
much,
really convenient, but in other ways it's a little scary.
yeah, it's scary how much the algorithm learns about you, and you don't even know what all these companies about of information about you. So yeah.
Yeah. Yep, it's definitely a big topic right now, but at the same
Yeah.
time, no one wants to give up social media, and I'm definitely guilty of that. So
Me too.
very cool. And so yeah, so what would you say are some of your favorite? I know you've already touched on a couple of them, like PyTorch, obviously Python, a couple other
Mhm.
things you've mentioned, but what would you say are some of your favorite technologies or tools or frameworks that you're working with right now? Or is there anything on your radar that you're really excited to learn about this year? I know a lot of people in the space are constantly learning. There's so many new things to jump on the
Mhm.
bandwagon of. So what are you really excited about right now?
Yeah. So I definitely love PyTorch, but also TensorFlow. I have beginner courses for both frameworks on my channel. Um, and also I like playing around with web development. So I recently, I think my last video was about comparing the three most popular web frameworks in Python: Flask, Django, and Fast API. And Fast API is kind of new. It's only been around like 3 years, but it's really popular. It's a very fast framework. It's one of the fastest available in Python, but it also makes development super easy. And I definitely want to play around more with this. And then also I want to learn more about audio stuff, so about NLP, natural language processing. Also because of my new job now, because we do this speech to text recognition. So yeah, these are the fields I want to learn more this year.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really interesting. And when you bring that up, the field that you're in now, I was just thinking about that in relation to some of the content you create. Is one of the applications that you currently do or that your company is looking at
Mm-hmm.
doing like being able to turn a YouTube into text or being able to turn podcasts? And I know there are some technologies that can do things like that with podcasts and talks and things, but is that one of the areas you're looking at or working on, where you can kind of turn like video and audio content into text so that there's another version of it?
Exactly, yeah. This applies basically to any kind of video or audio content.
Yeah.
Um, and it's just so much easier to analyze it when you have the text. So you can't just analyze the raw video or audio. That's why you need to convert it to text.
Yeah.
But then there's so much applications that you can do with this.
Right.
Yeah. And yeah, I'm so my background was more in the computer vision field. So I did a lot of image processing stuff, but not
Okay.
audio processing stuff. So yeah, this is completely new to me. Maybe not completely, because of some of these machine learning or deep learning concepts still apply the same way to audio data. But yeah, it's still different to work with audio.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. And I'm sure, as with any technology, I'm sure it's only going to get more advanced as time goes on when it comes to talk to text and some of those other areas you're working in. I was laughing just thinking about how my dad constantly uses the talk to text feature on the iPhone, and his messages always come in so confusing, not making any sense, because he just will talk and talk and talk and not check it. So I'm sure some of those technologies are just going to get more and more advanced and more accurate. And it's cool that there's just so many things like that, making people's lives easier and saving time.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, hey, I know we're coming up a little bit here on time, and I think this has been a really interesting conversation. I really appreciate you taking time to chat. I know you're super busy and you're recently transitioned into a new role. I know that always takes a lot of time. So really appreciate it. Just before we close, is there any, I know I can put the link to your YouTube in the show notes. Is there any other areas where people can find you and your content, or like if people want to reach out with questions, best way to get in touch, anything else to make sure we include?
Yeah, of course, I'm always happy if you check out my YouTube channel, but I'm also pretty active on Twitter. So
Okay.
you can find me at Python_engineer there. So yeah, Twitter is also a very nice place to engage with the community. And there you can always ask me questions and shoot me a DM, because there I'm more likely to see it and respond.
Right. Yep, I'm sure there's a lot of messages to sift through. So awesome. Well, thank you so much, Patrick. I'll be sure to put those links in the show notes. And thank you,
Uh-huh.
everyone that's listening. Let us know if you have any follow-up questions or anything. This is clearly a really interesting topic that a lot of people are talking about right now. So really appreciate it and looking forward to keeping in touch.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me here.
Of course. Have a great day.
You too. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to Select Star, your resource for innovative technology and developer topics. You can find our episodes in all the usual places: Spotify, Apple, Google, RSS, and YouTube. Don't forget to rate, comment, subscribe, and share. You can learn more about HarperDB at harperdb.io.